All right, we are live. Man, episode 46 already. It's been 3 years of
Wow.
Beyond the CMS. Hopefully, we still have a relevant term for CMS for the foreseeable future. But thank you to everyone who's making a little bit of time on their Thursday afternoon in the Eastern time zone, getting ready to watch some football later on. I'm coming at you from Toronto, Canada, and we've got some of the World Cup games going on in the city, which is really exciting. But the whole idea of the show and the chats are to talk content operations, content management, and we're super honored to have some of the foremost thought leaders in the space join me on the show to share their thoughts. And today, epic super special guest Joel Goodman from Squiz is joining us today. Joel, thanks for making time in your day as well to hang out with me and share what's on your mind and tell us all about Squiz.
Chris, I had such a great time last time, and so I've been looking forward to this for a while. So yeah, happy to be back. I think it'll be, well, it's always fun to talk with you, but I think it'll be good to dig into some nerdy tech stuff again too. So
some nerdy tech stuff is where it's at. And I'm just going to change some orientation because I've learned along the way that this view here is actually a little bit better for the show later. So
there we go.
That's okay. And so, hey, you're coming at us as VP of Growth Strategy for Squiz. Let's just start at the top. What is Squiz? What should everyone know about it?
Yeah.
The folks who listen in now and in the future, both YouTube and podcasts, are typically VP marketing, CMOs, kind of tasked with a big decision to manage digital publishing. And we just love them to know more about you and Squiz.
Yeah. Squiz is, as of this recording, about 26 years old. We are founded in Australia and headquartered out of Sydney. But we've got a huge presence across Australia and New Zealand, but then a pretty good, strong presence in the UK. And we are newish to North America, right? And I came on board, I think, nine-ish months ago, maybe 10 months ago, after owning my own agency for 13 years. So I worked primarily in higher education. Squiz has a long track record in sectors that are content dense, so like higher education, you might have hundreds of thousands of pages. Government is a strong area for us, especially across Australia and the UK, and starting to pick up here in the US. We've had a lot of good traction in professional services as well recently, but typically the thing that kind of binds most of our current customers together is this idea of organizations that rely on the content they produce and the content that they put out on the web. And that typically ends up being like super dense content organizations. And so we offer a digital experience platform. Your listeners know what that means. But as we come into some of these sectors, people are like, well, what does that mean? What's it like? Is that a CMS? Is that different than a CMS? Like, how does that play into the content operations that we have to do? And I think you said it earlier when we were talking. It's a CMS Plus Plus is really the easiest way to talk about it. So we have content management. We've got your kind of table stakes page builder, visual, WYSIWYG plus sort of experience. Composable content on a page. But on top of that, we've got tools that integrate site search. We have an incredible site search product called Funnelback, and then conversational search on top of it to kind of pull that AI-powered conversational experience that you might have with Google AI mode or ChatGPT or Claude onto your website so that people can see it and experience that with your own content. We have personalization and A/B testing, experimentation stuff built into the interface of the digital experience platform. We've got a pretty kind of a lightweight digital asset management tool within that as well. But I think the thing that really sets us apart is the composability from a technical side. So if you've got your own products you've already sunk a lot of time or a lot of effort into, like I think about like digital asset management. I mean, like if you've got thousands and thousands of images and files and videos already on a platform, you don't want to have to think about moving those off. And so we give you the tools and the ways to integrate those other products that you're already using into that main content management interface, into all the tooling there, so that you can kind of put together a full end-to-end data flow between what you're doing on your front end, even before you get to search, but into search, and then into your content management, and then into all the peripheral sort of data points that are there.
Yeah, it's refreshing to hear kind of DXP and composable together, which is like your complete plus flexibility, which is really awesome. And I think welcome to extending your Commonwealth reach.
Thank you.
Right on. That's really great. And I just love what you guys are up to. And we're a partner of yours and really believe in the vision that you have for the product as well. And I may just kind of say some ideas back for kind of future listeners, where we serve our customers, typically folks with a slight marketing bias, in helping them make decisions on their publishing or content platform. And I think Squiz has this really unique white space where you get a lot in one package. But when you look at like the monolith guys, the Sitecors and the Adobe guys that definitely have their place out there, it's such a heavy integration lift. You need kind of Java engineers, and like that's all fine and dandy for the use case. But imagine getting all of that full experience functionality in a package that's actually easy to get to market quickly. I know we were chatting a little bit earlier with Jamie as well, is about like, hey, right now seems to be this period of time where marketers are aware that they need to make some changes to kind of their publishing and content infrastructure, but there's a pause going on. And I think Squiz is a perfect solution to get things migrated quickly and in a kind of, I guess, in good stead for this foreseeable future, because you can compose your whole platform. But maybe you want to share a little bit about that, the migration capabilities, which is, the questions we're being asked.
Yeah, I mean, migration projects are always huge. they're big, and as someone that ran an agency that implemented a lot of big website redesigns and migrations for colleges and universities, I felt the pain on the back end of trying to like manage all of those things. And I think the unique thing about Squiz's DXP is that over the last several years, the company's invested in overhauling the architecture so that it can be AI controlled. So an AI first platform from a DXP and content management perspective, and that opens up a lot of opportunities for automating migrations and for easing some of those friction points. Right, I think migrations are always going to be a heavy lift. And so like easy is going to be relative to what your last one was probably. But at the same time, a lot of the thought process goes into how do we cut down the amount of time to get content moved over? How do we put in place the kind of technical side of identifying how to map different parts of your current website's content, your visual components, those sorts of things into our our component system and component service and our design system sort of management within the DXP in ways that are easy and hopefully really invisible to the marketers that don't want to worry about that stuff, right? You don't want to get into a system and have to worry about the technical side of how this stuff is happening. You just want the assurance that it's going to be done and done to a high standard, with the reality that, you're going to have to spot check and go through and do a QA process to make sure that it moves over. We've got we've got a great professional services team within Squiz to handle a lot of that, but we're also putting a lot of time and investment into working on easing those migration paths, because professional services teams don't like to do those projects either. No one likes to do the tedious stuff. So we've been working a lot on that front, and we've had quite a few larger clients go live this year where we have moved them off of other DXPs or CMSs and have had to migrate, thousands and thousands and probably hundreds of thousands of pages over into our platform. And every time you do one of those, you learn something new, you make a tweak to the system, you start to improve it. It's one of the things that really encourages me about how our product teams and our service delivery teams within Squiz work, is that we're trying to refine and improve those processes every single time while building the tooling to make it a little bit easier.
The show is pretty unscripted, but I wouldn't mind asking the question on behalf of some of my clients and prospects. How can they use AI to enable the velocity of their migration into a product like Squiz?
Yeah, I mean, we handle a lot of the heavy lifting on that side of it. I think a lot of this comes down to kind of content strategy, content design, operational strategy within what tech you're choosing, right? So I think that there's a level of doing as much prep work as you can ahead of time. Everyone talks about, AI search visibility, and I know you've been hearing and talking and thinking and creating stuff around this too. I think getting started there from like, how ready is your content before you even make a move, is not only beneficial to your current marketing during that sort of liminal space as you're working toward a migration, but also if you're doing that with a new platform in mind, using AI to understand the structures that content's going to go to in a new platform, and what the differences are in mapping between the current structures in your current platform and the one you're moving to. Having that kind of forethought to tweak and reshape your content ahead of time is only going to make that easier. And then I think just putting in place a really good planning structure with the staff, the delivery team from that new platform, or with your agency if they're managing that migration, is something that eases that friction all the way through. And if you don't know, the AI question is difficult because I think there's so much almost babysitting that has to do, or at least enough like groundwork to do to get really, really good results out of a lot of the models as they stand now. So it's helpful to have a trusted partner, a Dotfusion, for instance, that knows how to do these sorts of things and knows how to get them moved into the proper formats and structures for a new platform, because it's what marketer has time to ramp up on, the new thing that Anthropic throws out, or the new thing that OpenAI throws out there, right?
Yeah, it's really true. We're just having a chat where we have a project where we have about 500 pages to migrate, which is arguably on the smaller side.
Sure.
But we're kind of talking through our proposal and our methodology, and we're very concerned about making sure that we've anticipated the time on our clients' resources to do this stuff. And they're like, literally, well, can't you just use AI and just like map it all over? I'm like, are you actually going to hit the release button without reviewing anything? And then they're thinking, wow, 500 pages, they're going through a new brand exercise, so they should be rewritten. There's a lot of thinking up front that goes into it. We call them iceberg projects. We're all talking about what's on top, but it's the stuff underneath. Just talking about AEO, GEO, and discoverability, there's conversations going on around kind of the overall site architecture that's ideal to support that. And it may be some of the reasons why there's a bit of a pause going on right now in migration, is that if someone's kind of hitting it right now with getting found in AI search, they don't want to migrate in fear almost of losing that. But I understand Squiz's architecture gives you a variety of options as far as how you want to construct your sites. Do you want to talk a little bit about, from even a developer perspective, what is the platform like from an infrastructure perspective?
Yeah, so our DXP, or I guess our offerings kind of sit in three layers. We've got a product that we recently launched about a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago, called Squiz Content Intelligence, that kind of handles that upfront before someone gets onto your website side of things, where we audit all the content across your site. It doesn't matter what platform you're on, but we have a process that audits all of the content across your site. It has two parts to it. One, it looks at accessibility and where you're sitting, because if your site isn't accessible, you're essentially blocking you're blocking the crawlers from from these AI search engines from even understanding your content. Because the reality is that the technology is built on the AI search crawler technology is built on the same technology that powers screen readers and assistive applications, right? So accessibility becomes arguably even more important from a business practice function than it might have previously. And then on the flip side of it, you got to think if you've got 500 pages, 5,000 pages, escalating up, anywhere north of, I would say, like probably 150 pages, you need to understand how large language models are interpreting it and how they are lifting certain messaging out of your content. One of the things that we found with implementing our conversational search tool was that in order to get really good answers to questions people were asking based on the content on your website, we had to understand how large language models that power our conversational search were understanding that content. And so we had consultants manually doing that for at least a year, dumping hundreds of hours into these processes to make sure that the question asked on a university's website was pulling up the right answer and giving a great answer to the user. Turns out that if you can write your content and do accessibility on your own website to serve really good on-site conversational search answers, it does the exact same thing for AI search out there, whether it's ChatGPT or Google AI mode or whatever it is. So we look across all of the content on your website, we break it into topics, we do an analysis across that to see, are you writing consistently? Are you consolidating like content on like pages? Are you specific in how you're positioning details that you want to show up in search? So across 5 different metrics, we look at this and then we identify, okay, well, you have conflicting information on these 5 different pages. Which one's the right one? Because if AI can't figure out which answer to trust, it's going to do one of 2 things. It's either going to hallucinate, it's going to make something up, and hedge. Probably not the case, though, because if it's AI search, they've got an index of the top 5 to 10 for every question that's happening. They're probably going to go to a competitor's website or to an answer on Reddit, because it feels more trustworthy than what's on your own website. So getting insights from the structural side of content and content strategy helps with both the findability that you have in AI search, but then also within your website, how AI search, conversational search on your own site is going to turn up those answers. The next part of that is when we look at all of that, we prioritize which fixes of your content within Content Intelligence are going to have the biggest impact on AI search, showing up in AI search answers. Mm-hmm. And we tell you, here's the problem, this is high priority, and here's a suggested fix. And so you know exactly how to fix it. You can take that suggestion, update it in your CMS, your DXP, whatever your platform is, and watch that get better. And down the line, if you are built in, if you're working within the Squiz DXP, we're working towards being able to help you automatically update that content throughout the DXP within your website. And so that's kind of the future state that we're looking toward. How do we use AI to smooth over the process and the technical kind of friction that inevitably happens was, oh, here's a recommendation. Now you've got to go to this page on your website. Now you've got to log in, and now you've got to find that paragraph within the editor. Being able to reduce that number of steps reduces the overhead and time spent as you're doing this work on your own websites, right? So we're looking in terms of, yes, how can you do it on the site that you have now? But then if you are building your website and your digital experiences within the Squiz DXP, how can we reduce those friction points even more to give you more time back, honestly, as a marketer, so that you can be focusing on the things you're supposed to be doing, right? Which is marketing, telling the stories, finding the new stories to tell, and those sorts of things.
Very cool. Yeah, it kind of ties in when we were talking earlier, when you were mentioning that you had totally rebuilt the platform to be kind of AI compatible, maybe. Is that a good way to put it? Or to be more in line with the way that the robots are talking. Do you want to share a little bit about what that means for folks that are constantly using an LLM as their interface to everything?
So on the structural side, I mean, I think there's a lot of, this industry is changing all the time, right? And the ways that AI search looks at looks at your content, interprets your website, the weighting. If you think about in terms of, this is anathema, but if you think about in terms of like traditional SEO, where Google would constantly be tweaking the algorithm and like, oh, they might weight meta description higher than a heading down below, or like FAQs started showing up in snippets. That stuff's still changing within AI search. The one constant that's there is that if it can't understand your content, it's going to skip over it and go somewhere else. And so you can at least start writing and managing your content from a perspective of how large language models are going to interpret it, how clearly they're going to understand it. And that's going to help you show up in more answers. From our perspective on a tech side, we have all the tools for good SEO. I mean, accessibility helps SEO. Having strong schema.org metadata and structured content blocks within your content helps SEO. All of those things then in turn help AI search visibility as well, because they're using real search indexes. And so like as it's searching, it's going to try to pull that stuff up. The structures are more about not putting blockers in place within the technical side of the website, right? So if the page is getting built, it should be getting built in an AI first way. So we've, as I said earlier in the show, like we've put great investment into making it so each part of the DXP can eventually be controlled by AI, whatever that ends up being, right? If it's agentic processes that make a lot of sense to help you do research on a certain topic and then create a draft and then pull it back in, there's a lot of opportunity to be creative as the space changes and as the abilities of large language models and generative AI kind of come into their own. But at the same time, it's how do we use AI processes to find those patterns within the content you already have on your website, help you improve and optimize the content itself so that you have a better chance of showing up in the first place. And then again, reduce all that work on the front end for your users, your content authors, or if you as a CMO are having to go in and do that thing yourself, right? And then the third part is just the investment in infrastructure that we use. Squiz is built with deep partnerships with AWS and with Cloudflare. So like a lot of the personalization work and the just all of our kind of component rendering is done at the edge. So you kind of get this hybrid benefit that you typically might think you're getting with headless, because you can just like, it develops a static version of your page and it pushes it out to a CDN and serves it up on the edge. We're doing parts of that within our platform, but you get the benefits of dynamic personalization, being able to have A/B testing and still getting the speed benefits of publishing something at the edge because of our deep relationship with Cloudflare.
Man, that's a really interesting point. The technology and infrastructure to support dynamic personalization and that kind of stuff when you're pure headless, that does pose a challenge.
Yeah,
it's one of the pluses around the DXP and Squiz. I know I wanted to get into this a little bit more deeply because we haven't covered it enough on the show, and that's around personalization, kind of versus and or testing content out. What is your approach to all of that? And just for folks who don't know, one of the unique aspects of Squiz is you have a CDP, or that simply means like a data platform associated with the content that has information about your customers.
Yes. So our customer data platform, or CDP, integrates with our integrations platform as a service. So you can pull in your own CRM data, or you can pull in data from, maybe it's email marketing, or maybe it's an advertising platform or whatever else, and link all that data in through the CDP to, like you said, essentially these profiles for each user that lands on your site. It does a couple things. If you already know who the person is because you've got that data in your CRM, or they've logged in, or they've submitted a form or whatever it is, then you can get hyper personalized, right? You have a really nice data set on them. You could even personalize it down to, hi, John, welcome to the website, or whatever it is. Don't do that. That's creepy. That's not how you want to do personalization unless you're Amazon.com or they're actually logging in. But at the same time, if you don't know who that person is, you are actually still able to personalize, even if they're dark, right? Even if it's a person that's still anonymous to you in the CDP, they're not. You might not have their name and their email address, but you have a better chance to be able to convert them into someone who you know, through having them submit a form or whatever, because it's still able to infer through these data signals within the CDP what their interests are. And so our approach to personalization and experimentation, DXP itself right now, I believe, is A/B testing. We're not doing like full multivariate or A/B, ABY and all that sort of stuff. But being able to have a couple of different variants, and then also being able to do that A/B testing in conjunction with your CDP segments, means you could say, okay, if someone is here from Toronto, here's the A/B test that goes in with that. Or you could get really specific down to like a specific neighborhood, or you could say, all of Canada, or you could say Toronto versus, I'm going to St. John's in July, like I'm gonna be like way up there in the north, like those sorts of things, so like separating that sort of stuff out. It gives you as a content person, as a strategist, as a marketer, the ability to decide how you want to do that personalization strategy. I have a lot of thoughts on personalization strategy because I'm kind of, as VP of growth strategy, I'm implementing that stuff on our website right now. I'm thinking about this in terms of how we address our own customers, but giving you the flexibility to decide how best to personalize your content, could be swapping out images, could be swapping out full components with different content, could be directing someone to an entirely different page based on a segment. It gives you the chance to really build that into your overarching marketing strategy in a way that works for you, rather than saying like, you must personalize like this and we know exactly what's best. And I think that flexibility part is what's key for making sure organizations can stay nimble in their marketing, and adjust to changes in how customers, how users are interacting with websites.
It's funny. Like I'm a bit conscious of timing, but like I've got about 20 more things to ask you in 4 minutes. So one thing is we do need to reconnect, I think, for a demo day on the content intelligence at some point in time. I just think that's so cool. And my recollection, I think you gave us the opportunity to play around with it a little bit a bunch of months ago. And one of the tests we were doing is we had it basically assemble all of the questions that people would ask to find the content on our site that really informed how to change the content to factor in for those questions. It was just like a really great intelligent approach to how to craft content.
Yeah, and that's really kind of key to how we're able to tell you what's wrong with your content across it. We use a model to generate, in most cases, like we have a fairly small website ourselves at Squiz. Like our corporate website isn't huge. We'll have a topic with 12 pages in it, and the model that we're like our tool will generate 3,400 questions to ask that content to see where it gets tripped up. And that's how we monitor, like, is the model getting confused? Is AI search going to get confused by this content? The only way you can really do that, I've been saying this a lot, like, it doesn't really matter anymore what questions someone is asking ChatGPT. It matters what questions ChatGPT is asking your website after that happens, because of how query Fanout works in that, right? You can ask one question, but it's broken up into 40, 50, 60 questions you never even see. And so you have to figure out how to make sure your content answers all of those questions to give you the best chance of showing up in an answer. And so that's kind of the approach we've taken, is if we can categorize the content across your site, understand and infer some context around it, we can then generate thousands and thousands of questions per topic to just try to fill all of those gaps as best as possible, right? And then as things change, that'll update. But it's pretty interesting to walk through and be like, wow, this is 3,400 questions, and like read through all of that.
Cool, right? I think it's really cool. I can't wait to get folks the opportunity to see what you're doing. Maybe on that point, how do people find out about you? How do they get their hands on the product? What's that experience from curiosity to onboard look like?
Yeah, for sure. Head to squiz.net, and there's you'll see a link front and center to content intelligence. We can run kind of a minimal AI visibility report for anyone for free and show you kind of like where you stand right now. We'll even set it up against a few competitors if you want to see how your competitors are doing. And it's more of a snapshot of how we approach this sort of thing versus like what you get with the full product. But then we can go through a demo and like dig in and show you what that looks like on Squiz's website and what we're actually seeing. And the other thing is if you want to check out the Squiz YouTube, we've got a couple of videos up with some mini demos where I walk through how we've actually applied those changes to our own website.
Okay, that's a great idea. So anyone who's watching this show now, or mostly in the future, we can do some cross-linking. We'll put the Squiz link below on this video in the YouTube channel as well, because I think that's a really cool approach. We're just a little bit over time right now, but is there anything else that you want to share as far as your roadmap goes? Anything else you'd like to leave with folks, maybe as a teaser to check in on the next show, perhaps in our last minutes here?
Yeah, we've got a lot of exciting things happening here, and a lot of cool case studies that have been published on our website recently. We're working with some great universities and some government agencies and some professional services groups that are coming online, both with content intelligence, but also across our full DXP and using our search and our conversational search products. So I would say just stay tuned. Like there's a lot of really cool new applications of AI within content structures and strategy and approaches to websites that I think will excite a lot of people. And yeah, the goal is just to make all of this a little bit more easier for everyone that has to deal with mountains and mountains of content on their websites.
Well, that's awesome. We're just past time here. Joel, thanks a lot for making time in your day to join me here. Thanks
Definitely.
everyone watching now or in the future. I'm Chris. I'm the CEO and founder of Dotfusion. We're a Squiz partner. We implement, migrate, modernize large-scale websites and delve into a lot of more modern content operation systems. Always a pleasure to host and ask questions, and hopefully we're leaving you with some great information. I really recommend reaching out to Joel, folks at Squiz. Have some conversations direct about the product. It's pretty awesome, and we can't recommend that enough. So we'll leave all of that contact information down below afterwards. And Joel, I'm just going to press some buttons here. Stay with me for a moment. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you for episode 47 in the near future.